Hello everyone, my name is NekoVenture, and welcome to a very special episode. Today we are going to be doing something that I'm kind of surprised I've never done. And that is reading the original Sonic.exe creepypasta for the first time since its release in, I think, 2014. Or 2011, or 2012. One of those years. I don't know. But I actually used to be really into, like, Sonic and creepypastas. And I vividly remember actually really enjoying Sonic.exe, the game, and the character. But I never actually sat down and took the time to read the story. How old is it now? Hold on. It is... ...2011. So... a little over 14 years old now. That's over half my age. I think that tells you exactly what you need to hear about the amount of, stuff you're about to see in this. And it dates itself. Very, very much so. Anyways, enough stalling. Let us read, shall we? I'm a total Sonic the Hedgehog fan. Much like everyone else, I like the newer games. But I don't mind playing the classics. I don't think I've ever played glitchy or hacked games before, though I don't think I want to play any after the experience I had. It started on a nice summer afternoon. I was playing Sonic Unleashed. I liked how you got to explore the towns in it. Until I noticed, out of my peripheral vision, that the mailman had arrived and put something in my mailbox, as usual, and left. I paused my game to go see what I got in the mail. The only thing in the mailbox was a CD case for computers and a note. I took it inside. I looked at the note first and realized it was from my dear friend Kyle, let's just call him that, whom I haven't heard from in 2 weeks. I know that because I recognized his handwriting, though what was weird is how it looked. It looked badly written and scratchy and somewhat difficult to read, as if Kyle was having a hard time writing it down and did in a hurry. This is what he wrote. Tom, I can't take it anymore. I had to get rid of this thing somehow before it was too late, and I was hoping you would do it for me. I can't do it. He's after me, and if you don't destroy the CD, he'll come after you too. He's too fast for me. Please, Tom. Destroy this godforsaken disc before he comes after you, too. It's too late for me. Destroy the disc, and you'll destroy him. But do it quick, otherwise he'll catch you. Don't even play the game. It's what he wants. Just destroy it. Please. Kyle. Okay, real quick, first things first, before we continue reading. Why is it in all of these old creepypastas, instead of, destroying the disc themselves, they hand it over to their friend, and they're like, yeah, homie, this disc is cursed and shit. Don't play it, though, but can you, destroy it for me? That's, the trope of every single old creepypasta. Sonic.exe. Kind of been drowned, but not really, because it's a freaking, what is it, garage sale thing? I'm blanking on the amount of creepypastas out there right now, because I did not sleep very well last night. But, that is just a trope among a lot of them. And it's... I don't get it. Anyway. Well, that was certainly weird. Even though Kyle is my best friend and I haven't seen him in 2 weeks, I didn't do what he had asked me. I didn't think a simple gaming disc would do anything bad to him. After all, it's just a game, right? Boy, was I wrong about that. Anyway, I looked at the disc and it looks like an ordinary computer CDR disc, except it had black marker on it written Sonic.exe, and it was much unlike Kyle's handwriting, meaning that he must have gotten it from someone else, like a pawn shop or eBay. When I saw Sonic on the writing of the CD, I was actually excited and wanted to play it, since I'm a big Sonic fan. Actually, since I'm a big Sonic fan. There we go. Gotta be correct. I went up to my room and turned on my computer and put the disc in and installed the game. When the title screen popped up, I noticed it was the first Sonic game. I was like, awesome! Because like I said earlier, I like the classics. The first thing I noticed that was out of place when I pressed start was there was a split second where I saw the title image turn to something much different. Something that I now consider horrifying, before cutting to black. I remember what the image looked like in that split second before the game cut to black. The sky had darkened, the title emblem was rusted and ruined, the Sega 1991 was now instead Sega 666, and the water had turned to red, like blood. But the freakiest thing that was in that split-second frame was Sonic. His eyes were pitch black and bleeding with two glowing red dots staring right at me, and his smile had stretched wider to the edge of his face. Are you reading the original? Yeah, this is the original. 2011. 14 years old. Anyway. I was rather disturbed about that image when I saw it, though I figured that it was just a glitch and forgot about it. Because as we all know, glitches involve our characters having blood coming out of their eyes and their eyes being soulless black pupils and the water turning to red and Sega 666 popping up. Definitely a glitch. Anyway. After it cut to black, it stayed like that for about 10 seconds or so. And then another weird thing happened. The save file select from Sonic 3, the Hedgehog 3 popped up. And I was like, WTF? What's this doing in the first Sonic game? Anyway, then I noticed something off. The background was this dark, cloudy sky of the bad Stardust Speedway level from Sonic's CD, and there were only 3 save files. The music was that creepy Caverns of Winter music from Earthbound, only it was extended and seemed to have been in reverse. And the image for the save file, where you see a preview of the level you're on, is just red static for all 3 files. What freaked me out more was the character select. It only showed Tails, Knuckles, and to my surprise, Dr. Robotnik. Now, I was sure something was up. I mean, how can you play as Robotnik in a classic Sonic game for crying out loud? That's when I realized this wasn't a glitchy game, it was a hacked game. Yeah, it definitely looked hacked. It was really creepy, but as a smart gamer, I wasn't scared. Or at least, I tried not to be. I told myself that it was just a hacked game, and there was nothing wrong with that. Anyway, shaking off that creeped out feeling I picked... Grammar, please. Shaking off that creeped out feeling, I picked file 1 and chose Tails, and when I selected and got started... Wait, what? Hold on, that threw me for a loop there for a minute. Wait, what? I chose Tails, and when I selected and got started... Okay. The game froze for about 5 seconds, and I heard a creepy, pixelated laugh that sounded an awful lot like that Kefka guy from Final Fantasy before cutting to black. The screen stayed black for about 10 seconds or more. Then it showed the typical level title thing, except the simplistic shapes were different shades of red, and the text showed only Hill Act 1. The screen faded in, and the level title vanished, revealing Tails in the Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1. The music was different, though. It sounded like a peaceful melody in reverse. Anyway, I started playing, and had Tails start running like you would in any of the classic Sonic games. What was odd was that as Tails was running along the level, there was nothing but flat ground and a few trees for 5 minutes. That was when the peaceful music started to lower down into slow, deep tones, very slowly, as I kept going. I suddenly saw something, and I stopped to see what it was. It was one of the small animals lying dead on the ground, bleeding. That was when the music started to slow down. Tails had a shocked and saddened look on his face that I never saw him have before. So I had to move along, obviously. And he kept that worried look on his face. As he kept moving, I saw more dead animals as Tails moved past them, looking more and more worried. As the music lowers and he moves past more dead animals, I was shocked to see how they all died. They looked like somebody had killed them in rather gruesome ways. A squirrel was hanged on a tree with what appeared to be his entrails hanging out. A bunny had all 4 of his limbs torn off, and a duck had his eyes gouged out and his throat slit. I felt sick to my stomach when I saw this massacre, and apparently so did Tails. After a few more seconds, there were no more animals, and the music seemed to have stopped. I still kept Tails to continue. I think what he's trying to say is, I still kept having Tails continue, but just very, very scuffed. How do you get the... Okay. Was this like... How old was the person making this at the time? Because he got the correct hanged. Like, most people would say hung or whatever, but it is actually grammatically hanged. But then you have sentences like, I still kept Tails to continue. Alright. After a minute passed after the music stopped, Tails was running up a hill, and then he stopped. It wasn't until I saw why. Sonic was there on the other side of the screen with his back against Tails and with his eyes closed. Tails looked happy to see Sonic, but then his smile faltered, obviously noticing that Sonic wasn't responding to him, as if not acting as if he was totally oblivious of Tails' presence. Tails walked slowly towards Sonic, and I noticed that I wasn't even moving my keyboard to make him move, so this had to have been a cutscene. Yes, you don't typically move your keyboard to make characters move, but I digress. Suddenly, I began to have a growing feeling of dread as Tails walked closer to Sonic to get his attention. I felt that Tails was in danger, and something bad was going to happen. I heard faint static growing louder as Tails was but inches away from Sonic, and stopped and stuck his hand out to touch him. That foreboding feeling in my gut was growing stronger, and I felt the urge to tell Tails to get away from Sonic as the static grew louder. This was unironically taken off creepypasta.com because it was so bad the mods thought it was a troll. I remember something like that. And then it was put on like troll pasta or something, and then the creator like took it back down. Yeah, I don't even think creepypasta.com exists anymore. Because I'm reading this on the Creepypasta Classics fandom wiki. Because I tried to find the original and just couldn't. So someone had the original story posted here. So Alright. Time to get to the climax of this story, everyone. Suddenly, in a split second, I saw Sonic's eyes open, and they were black with those glowing red dots, just like the title image. Though, thought there wasn't a smile. I'm going to read this word for word, even if it's grammatically incorrect, just to keep the authenticity. When that happened, the screen turned black and the static sound was off. It stayed black for about 7 seconds, and then white text appeared, forming a message saying, "Hello, do you want to play with me?" At this point, I was creeped out. I didn't want to continue with the game, but my curiosity got the better of me when I was taken to a different level, with the level title now saying, "Hide and Seek." This time, I was in the Angel Island level from Sonic 3, and everything looked like it was on fire. Tails looked as though he was scared out of his wits this time. He actually looked at me and made frantic gestures to me as if he wanted to get out of this area he was in as fast as possible. I was starting to get freaked out by this. I mean, Tails was actually breaking the fourth wall, trying to tell me to get him out of there. So I pressed down on the arrow key as hard as I could, and made him run as fast as he could. A pixelated version of that creepy theme when you meet Shadow at the Ark as Robotnik from Sonic Adventure 2 was playing as I made Tails trek through the desolate forest, trying to help him escape from whatever he was trying to run from. Okay, that is actually a difference. I thought it was the Sonic drowning theme, because that's what it was in the games. Anyway. Oh, wait, no, that was after. Okay. See, it's a good thing I'm rereading this, and by rereading, I mean reading for the first time. Revisiting this is what I meant to say. Because I completely forgot about Tails' section here. Anyway. Suddenly, I heard that creepy laugh again. That awful Kefka laugh. Right after 10 seconds have passed as I helped Tails run through the forest. And then I started seeing flashes of Sonic popping up everywhere on the screen, again with those black and red eyes. The music changed to that suspenseful drowning jingle as I heard Sonic behind Tails, slowly gaining up on him. Flying! Sonic wasn't running, he was actually flying! The flying pose the sprite was making looked very similar to Metal Sonic's flying pose in Sonic CD. Except it was just Sonic, and he had the black and red eyes again. Only this time, he had the most deranged look on his face. Fuck. He had the most deranged looking grin on his face. He looked as though he was enjoying the torment he was giving the poor little fox as he was gaining up on him. I know what I said earlier, but damn it, I just can't. Suddenly, when Tails tripped, another cutscene, the music stopped and Sonic vanished. Tails laid there and started crying for 15 seconds. The scene was rather upsetting to watch, and I kind of teared up myself. But Sonic appeared right in front of Tails, and Tails looked up in horror. Blood started to come down those blackened eyes of Sonic's as a grin slowly grew from his face, and he looked down at the horrified fox. I could do nothing but watch. Just in a split second, Sonic lunged at Tails right before the screen went to black. There was a loud screeching noise that only lasted 5 seconds. The text returned, only this time it said, "You're too slow. Want to try again?" And then that god-awful laugh came with it. I was so shocked by what happened. Did Sonic murder Tails? No, he couldn't have. He and Tails are supposed to be best friends, right? Why did Sonic do that to him? Okay. I shook the shock off. That sounds like a band name. Shook the shock off. As I was brought back to the character select, the save file that had Tails was different. Tails was no longer in the box itself, but in the TV screen itself, which was flickering with that red static. Tails' expression scared me. His eyes were black and bleeding, his orange fur had gone black, and he had an expression of anguish on his face. Trying to ignore it, I picked Knuckles next. I'm going to get into a more comfortable position so that I can read this a little bit better. The laugh came again, and the screen cut to black again, and stayed there for another 10 seconds. This time, the level said, "You can't run." I was really freaked out by now. I couldn't tell if this was a glitch or a hack or some kind of sick and twisted joke, or anything really. But despite my fears of what happened next, I kept playing. The next level looked much different. It had the ground of the Scrap Brain Zone, but the sky background looked like the main menu. It had the dark, reddish, cloudy sky, but it was the music that crept me out the most. It sounded like Gygus' theme right after you beat Pokey in Earthbound. I thought his name was Porky. Whatever. I also noticed that Knuckles looked afraid, just like Tails did. Though not as much. More rather, he looked a little unnerved. He broke the fourth wall just like Tails, and looked as if he wasn't sure about going on, but I made him move anyway. He ran down the straight pathway in this dark level, and as he did, the screen started to flicker red static a couple times, and then that maddening laugh came again. Then after only a few seconds of running, I noticed several bloodstains on the metallic ground. I felt a growing sense of fear again, thinking something horrible is going to happen to Knuckles. He looked nauseated, walking down this blood-stained road, but I still kept him going. As Knuckles ran, Sonic appeared right in front of him with those black and red eyes, and then red static appeared again. When the static vanished, showing nothing but a black screen with text saying, "Found you!" I was now scared. Sonic found Knuckles already? What was going on? Anyway, red static came again, and then back to the level, and I was back to the level. Knuckles looked like he was panicking, and Sonic was nowhere to be found. And this time, the high-pitched squealing from the Silent Hill 1's final boss was playing. Was this some kind of boss battle with Sonic? I hope to God it wasn't, honestly. Suddenly, Sonic appeared right behind Knuckles in what appeared to be a pixelated black smoke. I made Knuckles turn and then punch Sonic, but Sonic vanished in pixelated smoke before I could even land a hit. That terrible laugh went off again. Then Sonic appeared behind Knuckles again, and I made him punch again, and Sonic vanished again, laughing. Knuckles was panicking even more, and even I felt like I was going crazy. Sonic was practically playing with us. He was playing a sick, twisted little mind game with me and Knuckles. Another cutscene played as Knuckles fell to his knees and clutched his head, sobbing. I felt his agony. Sonic was actually driving us both crazy. And then in a split second, Sonic lunged at Knuckles, and the screen went black after another distorted screeching noise that lasted for at least 3 seconds. Another text message appeared. So many souls to play with, so little time. Would you agree? What the hell? Just what is going on? I started to think that Sonic was actually trying to talk to me through the game, but I was too scared to think that. I was brought back to the main menu, and this time, the second file box had Knuckles in the TV screen. His red fur had darkened to a reddish gray. His dreadlocks were dripping with blood, and his eyes were black and bleeding too, and he had a look of sadness on his face. I began to think that those are actual characters trapped in... I began to think that those are the actual characters trapped in those TV screens on the save files, but I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. So I shut off the game and took a break. I took a nap. Wish I hadn't, because then I began to have the most disturbing nightmare. I was in pitch black darkness, though I was under the light given off by a lamp that hung high above my head. I could hear the cries of Knuckles and Tails nearby. They were saying stuff like, "Help us," and "Why did you give him to us? Why did you give us to him?" and "Run away before he gets you too." This is so fucking bad, man. Yeah. I will say... You know what? I'm not even gonna be nice about it. The creator of this turned out to be an asshole. This story is, like, terrible in terms of writing. I'll get to that at the end of the story. I'll go back and give everyone my thoughts on this as a mostly unbiased first-time viewer. But it's not the worst story I've ever heard. But damn, is it kind of up there. Anyway. Their cries died out, and then I heard Sonic laugh. His laugh. It sounded a lot like the distorted Kefka laugh. "You're a lot fun to play with, kid. Just like your friend Kyle, though he didn't last long." I was scared and looking around for the source of the voice. "Won't be long now until you join him and all my other friends." Yuh. I saw him walking towards me, flickering in and out in several directions. "You can't run, kid. You're in my world now, just like the others." When he grabbed me and I saw his bleeding black and red-eyed grinning face, I woke up with a fright. After a couple of hours, I decided to continue playing the game. I don't know why, but I had to know. I had to figure out what was happening. So I turned on the computer, turned on the game, and selected Robotnik next. I still thought this was wacky, playing as Robotnik. But anyway, the level title appeared again, and this time it said ... which I found really freaky. This time, I was in some kind of hallway. Didn't really look like it was from any of the classic Sonic games, though. It had a pixelated style. The floor was shiny and checkered. The walls were a dark grayish purple with animated candle lights, and a few dark bloodstains here and there. There was a dark red curtain hanging above the top part of the screen. Every 12 seconds or so, that red curtain sways very slowly, but whenever you're playing the game, you can barely see it move. The music was oddly pleasant, a piano playing a rather sad yet peaceful song. But I knew better. This was the song that played in Hill Act 1, only it wasn't in reverse. Robotnik didn't look entirely nervous like Tails and Knuckles did, but he did have a suspicious look on his face, as if he was just a bit paranoid. He did a little animation when I just left him standing. He turns his head to the left, and then to the right at least twice, and then shrugs at me, as if he has no idea where he was or what was going on. Even though I was scared out of my mind about what was going to happen, I had Robotnik continue onward. He did his usual running animation. You know, when you've beaten him at the end of a classic Sonic game and you chase him, as we continued through the hallway. Then I stopped at a long flight of stairs leading downward. Now I was nervous. Even Robotnik seemed unsure of himself, though I pressed onwards. As I led Robotnik down the stairs, I noticed that the walls had gotten darker and much more reddish. The red torches are now an eerie blue. Then we landed onto another hallway. This one was longer than the last one, or at least it felt like it. And then we headed down another flight of stairs. Down. Then we headed down another flight of stairs down. This one was much longer. Took at least 1 full minute. And then I heard that horrid Kefka laugh again. And the music slowly faded until it was quiet, as did the walls turn more dark red, and the torches were a black flame now. When Robotnik landed onto the third hallway, I noticed he looked... I noticed he now looked really creeped out. Though he tried to hide it, I couldn't blame him. I was scared too. Suddenly, Sonic popped right in front of Robotnik the same way he did Knuckles, and then red static. The red static lasted for about 15 seconds, and then it showed me a most unpleasant image. The image showed an image of Sonic standing in the darkness, where you can only see his face with his head and torso faded into black. He looked so real you could actually see the lines in his blue fur, as if you could actually feel the fur if you touched the screen. His face. Oh God. He had the most horrifying smile I have ever seen. I'm gonna order some food real quick, middle of the stream, sorry y'all. But I'm like going through this and can't think of anything except how hungry I am. I probably should have ordered food before this, but whatever. Anyway. Continuing. Where am I? Here. His face, oh God, he had the most horrifying smile I'd ever seen. And then... And that's saying something, considering I saw that image at the start of the game. His eyes are wide and black, and once again crying blood. And there were 2 small glowing red dots in those black eyes staring right at me, as if staring into my mind. His grin was wide and demonic. It literally stretched to the side of his face like a Cheshire cat, except Sonic had fangs. Very sharp fangs. Much like the werehog's teeth, except more vicious looking. Somewhat yellowish, and from the looks of it, he had stains of blood and small bits of flesh on his lips, and fangs as if he had ate some animal. I stared at that gruesome image for a good 30 seconds, never taking my eyes off it. I felt as if he was actually looking at me, smiling at me. That face. It just took 10 seconds for it to etch itself into my brain for good. Then the screen flickered with red static again 3 times, and on the 3rd time I heard the Kefka laugh. Except this time it sounded distorted, demonic even. It went back to the image again, except this time there was text. Jesus Christ. Except this time there was the text again, though it was messed up. But it was pretty much one of the most horrifying things I had looked at since I had this game. I am God. It was when I... God, okay. It was when I read that message while looking at Sonic when it hit me. I realized right there and then, this Sonic was a monster. A pure evil, sadistic, all-powerful, nightmarish, demented monster. And all his victims, including Tails, Knuckles, Robotnik, possibly Kyle, are all just his little toy... Jesus Christ. My door is like... Okay, whatever. And the game is the very gateway to this chaotic, nightmarish world. And the very hell his victims are trapped in. Suddenly, in an actual split second, I screamed as the Sonic lunged at the screen, screeching loudly with his mouth wide open to an unnatural length. revealing nothing but a literal spiraling abyss of pure darkness, before the red static came again. This time, much louder and distorted, so loud that it hurt my ears. I yelled and grabbed my ears as the red static screeched for a good 7 seconds. Then it stopped and showed nothing but black screen. As I sat there staring at the black screen, one last text came up. "Ready for round 2, Tom?" The Kefka laugh, now sounding more clear as if Sonic was right behind me, played again 3 times, as I looked at the text in shock and confusion. Then I got booted back to the main menu, and this time the third save file had a TV image of Robotnik in the same tormented state as Tails and Knuckles. Robotnik's skin turned a dull gray, his mustache drooped and had blackened, his glasses broke and blood is coming from them, and he had a mere dead-like expression on his face. I looked at Tails, Knuckles, and Robotnik, and I cried for a bit. I pitied them for the agony they're going through. They were trapped forever within the game, forever tormented by that horrid hedgehog, and always will be. Then the computer shut itself off, and I couldn't turn it on or back on no matter what I did. I sat there for maybe 25 seconds, horrified by what had just happened. Sonic is the very embodiment of evil. He tortures people who play his game in more ways than one, and then when he gets bored, he drags you into the game, literally drags you to hell, where he can play with you always as his toy. I can't get the game out of my computer. I think it's stuck in there, but at least I managed to turn it back on now. After I sat there for 25 seconds, I heard a voice right behind me, like a whisper. "Try to keep this interesting for me, Tom." I turned around and to see where the voice had come from, and what I saw made me scream. Sitting on my bed, staring right at me, was a Sonic plushie, smiling with bloodstains under his eyes. And that is that. Wow, where do I begin? So, you know what? I'll begin here. As a writer, as someone who has been writing for a good chunk of my life, I have had my fair share of bad stories that I've written. Stories that are nonsensical, horrible pacing, horrible characters. Hey, combat, what's good? You just missed it. I finished reading the entire creepypasta. Anyway, back to my point. I do not want to shun anyone for writing a bad story. It's all part of the experience, and the more bad stories you write, the more experience you gain, and the better stories you can write in the future. With that being said, God, this sucks. I'm going to be ruthless with this one, because, first of all, it's incredibly popular. It's not like I'm bashing on a small writer who, just got his startup and has no fan base or anything like that. And also, the creator of this is a horrible person. So I'm going to be ruthless. First thing, there is so much unnecessary gore. Where is it? Yeah, here. A squirrel was hanged on a tree with what appeared to be his entrails hanging out. A bunny had all 4 of his limbs torn off, and a duck had his eyes gouged out and his throat slit. What does this have to do with the story? What importance does unnecessary gore like this have to do with the story? I'm all for having gore or blood or whatever in your story, but it needs to make sense. if you can't explain why you need to have a bunny with all four of his limbs torn off and a duck with his eyes gouged out and his throat slit, don't include it. That goes for any writer. If you want to write a horror story, unnecessary gore is not the way to go about it. If you want a character to die a horrible, gruesome death, make it make sense. Just going to get that out there. Also, grammar was a massive issue, but I don't know how old the storyteller is at the time of writing. So it could just be a product of them being young. Okay, I think I might have cut out for a second there. Either way, the whole point of a slasher film is that it's nothing but gore. This is trying to be like a psychological horror type of, trying to get into your head, creepy, demonic Sonic. Gore isn't scary. Gore itself is not scary. So you shouldn't use it as a replacement for horror. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Slasher films can get away with it because that's all they are, is blood, gore. They're not really meant to be scary in the same way that a horror novel, like this is, whatever. Like, this is not scary. Not in the slightest. If anything, it's kind of hilarious. And it also... I guess I can't... This was like the blueprint for a lot of creepypastas, so I can't really say that it fit a lot of tropes of creepypastas because it was kind of the origin of a lot of these tropes. Excessive blood, demonic character killing everyone in the story, fourth wall breaking, all that stuff. Fourth wall breaking isn't like an Sonic.exe exclusive thing, but in terms of creepypastas is what I'm saying. The whole fourth wall breaking is, yeah. Watching people play the... Yeah, as a kid, it was scary, sure. But that's because as kids, we found a lot of stuff scary. Plus, the fan game was actually like a very visual, representation of this story. And things with visuals is, scary. Inherently scarier than just reading something and leaving it to your imagination, especially when this is what's, being told to you and being left to your imagination. Then there's like believability, I felt his agony. Sonic was driving us both crazy. Like, brother, never pick up a horror game if this is all it takes to drive you crazy. There's very little believability to any of it. The Tails doll curse. So funny thing about that, the Tails doll actually did scare the hell out of me as a kid. I only saw the image and a few things with fan games or fan stories and animations, but that is it. And it scared the living hell out of me when I was 10, 11. But anyway, just another thing. Including references to other media in your, game does not, or your story, or game, really, either one, does not make it inherently scary either. the Kefka laugh is brought up 1,000 times, and it's just not scary at all. It's trying to be, the Kefka laugh now sounding more clear as if he was right behind me. The Kefka laugh, except this time it sounded distorted, demonic even. Like, and then I heard the horrid Kefka laugh again. Like, and the constant references to Silent Hill that just kind of seem out of nowhere. Again, it needs a reason. And this is something that I think Sonic.exe started, but the constant use of exact measurements of time and exaggerated amounts of time. Like, the way that this... Actually, I just scrolled to a perfect example. The way that this author is explaining it, it's basically just like the game. It's a walking simulator. You hold right on the keyboard, and you just watch what happens. If you're doing that for a minute, maybe my attention span is cooked, but I don't think I'd be able to do that for a solid minute. Just hold right on the keyboard as Tails walked. And then finally sees Sonic. And then it stayed black for about 7 seconds. Oh, 7, 6, 7. God damn it. Tails laid there crying for 15 seconds. I teared up myself. There was a loud screeching noise that lasted for only 5 seconds. Like, this story gets a lot wrong. And like, yeah, it's a classic creepypasta. But if this was written today, like... I can't see it even hitting like 1,000 people enjoying it. Because it's just so poorly made. This was a product of its time. Early internet, everyone's kind of getting, accustomed to internet culture and, telling scary stories on the internet like campfire stories. And that's what creepypasta is. If it existed nowadays, it just wouldn't be nearly as popular. And I would be willing to bet every cent that I have on that. I'm just kind of saying shit, but like, my point is, this story does not hold up in the slightest, and I think that's a sentiment that a lot of people have. Like, that's not a groundbreaking revolution. Or revelation, rather. But, I don't know, it's just weird. Because, like, even as a kid, I could not see myself enjoying reading the story. The reason I enjoyed Sonic.exe was because of the game and the images and all that came with it. And, like, the animations and, all that stuff. And as a kid, I fucking believed it was real. I believed every creepypasta was real. Except for, like, Jeff the Killer. Which I'm realizing yeah, it's off the screen. Because I wanted the story to focus more on the... Or I wanted the video to focus more on the story. And... the last thing I can really say about it... What is this fucking ending, man? I mean, even as a kid, this was like... Okay, I went into this knowing what the ending looked like. I mean, at this point, if you don't know what Sonic.exe's ending looks like, congratulations on coming out of your rock that you've been living under for the past 20 years. But like a plushie, really? Oh, right. There was also this. Where was it? Uh, Here. This line makes no sense. I just want to get that out of the way right now. Okay. Well, you're going to have to see a little bit of the whatever. But what do you mean those are the actual characters trapped on those TV screens? Like, if it's human souls, as is the new, trend or whatever. If you want to say they're human souls, that's one thing. Like, if you were actually going in and killing people named, like, Jeff or something, like, that would be a reason why you would be like, I couldn't believe it, I didn't want to believe it, and why you'd actually be scared to continue. But what do you mean that they're the actual characters trapped in those TV screens? Of course they're the actual characters. Like, what is that supposed to mean? Of course it's Tails, Knuckles, and Robotnik. Does he mean, like, the canon? Like, does he think this game is canon? Is that what he was going for? Because I can tell you, it's not canon. Though it would be fucking hilarious if Sonic.exe was just a cameo in the Sonic 3 movie. Speaking of, the next movie's coming out like next year or something, isn't it? That's gonna be fun. Who knows, maybe we'll get Sonic.exe and Sonic 4. No one knows what the undoctored Jeff the Killer image looks like or where it is. Yeah. The Jeff the Killer story's right here. Yeah. 2027, okay. But yeah, this little dude, to this day, no one actually knows what it looks like with no edits or anything. And I think it's because it's so heavily edited. I could also read the Jeff the Killer story. There's a lot wrong with this story as well. But I'm not going to do that in this. Oh. There's an actual... Well, it's the same thing, so, whatever. Oh? This isn't the original, is it? Yeah, no, this is not the original. Yeah, no. No, this is not Sonic.exe's original story. This is... Anyway. That's all. Happy Halloween, everyone. I just wanted to make a little scary video for fun. I wanted to actually play a game for Halloween, but I slept in a little bit, and I would not be able to complete the game like I wanted to. So, this is what we get. But maybe we can make this a tradition. Next year I'll read another creepypasta that didn't age well, or... I don't know, something else. You guys tell me. Why does Adolf Hitler have a creepypasta wiki?